Hi, this is Steve Genge from the Core Research Team. Today we're going to go through the Section 4 World Class RIM. This is where our questions that calculate your standing to our world class RIM standard and strong performance level. For those companies that took the survey in 2018, this is where your plot on the scatter graph comes from. 10 of these questions are part of our algorithm to calculate the world class, and most of the questions are almost identical. The only exceptions are we added a few more key performance indicators to 3 questions. So let's get started. The first question we'd like to highlight in this section gets into the list that you've probably seen in other sections of the survey. It's the RIM capabilities, along with we added data standards and governance management. With any question, 2 things here that are very important. If there is a definition, look at it very closely. In this, where the question is about current efficiency, we have a definition defined as effective utilization of resources, repeatability of process, lower error rates, etc. The other thing, as far as the terminology with some of these RIM capabilities, some of them are pretty straightforward and standard. Others you might not be sure of. What do they mean by dossier management? What do they mean by submission production? And that's where the terminology PDF is very important. It lists out all those terms. So one question we get on the debriefs is why the 4-point scale? So we have very efficient, efficient, not efficient, and inefficient. This is a required question. You'll see the asterisk there. And there's always an escape clause, not applicable or not in our RIM scope. So maybe, for example, that your label content management is not in your RIM scope, you would just check that. But the question that we get in the debriefs is why not have an average or a neutral, meaning a 5-point scale? Simply put, we want companies that are on the fence. Are you leaning towards efficient or are you leaning towards not efficient? We realize this can be subjective, and it's the only subjective question in this section. But when we roll up so many companies, we get a good sense of where industry's at. So good luck with that question. Moving on, some of these questions I'm not going to discuss. They're very straightforward. And we're going to land on questions 19, 20, and 21. They have the identical scale. These are some questions we added some additional rows, meaning there are some additional performance metrics. Question 19 focuses on cycle time. The scale is exactly the same. You either measure it today, you plan to measure it within 2 years, you have no plan to measure it, or it doesn't currently apply to your situation. So there might be some of these performance metrics that don't apply because maybe you're a device company, a diagnostic company. Some of them, they don't currently apply. Maybe in the future after the next 2 years, maybe you're emerging biotech. And some of these you might be looking at 3 or 4 years in the future, but some of these are life cycle management. So the next one, again, the identical scale, additional volume metrics we're focused on. There's 3 additional ones compared to 2018 here at the end. A number and status of open changes, number of questions received by health authority by severity, and number of cycles needed for key document approval. Not all documents. There's so many documents that are in dossiers, but think about something like a CSR, for example. Is there a number of cycles for key document approval, or it doesn't matter? Moving on, we have our quality metrics. There was no additions to that. And the last part of this section I'd like to comment on is a brand new question. It's not part of the world-class calculation, but what we've been trying to do for years is get actual values. So in the previous questions, we know of companies as we aggregate it up, who is measuring what today, what is going to be measured in the next couple of years. And what we found in past data is there is a lot of aspirations, if you will, to formally improve regulatory performance metrics. So we'll see in 2020 if that's realized. But question 22, we talked about this quite a bit in the design sessions, it's just 5 areas. These are pretty straightforward performance metrics: the date to market for a label change, the time to conduct a regulatory impact assessment, 2 expressions of that for a product change, and also a regulatory requirement change. Time from a regulatory event to an updated status in the registration, split by major market and secondary markets. Companies that measure that, it tends to be either 3 or 5 business days. So instead of the actual value, because some companies were worried about confidentiality, is we thought it'd be more interesting to get the target value. This might be in an SOP or work instruction or in a goal and objective in business days. So again, using the example, time from a regulatory event to an updated status in your registration system, it could be 3, could be 5, 7, whatever the value is, please provide an integer value. So that's it for this section. The other questions should be straightforward. As in any part of the survey, if you have any questions, go into the Fast Facts document. Our contact information is there. Either give us a call or send us an email. Good luck on filling out the rest of the survey. Thank you for participating, and we look forward to giving you the results.